Hello, friends, and happy World Card Making Day. I'm Sheri, and I'm here with a special project for this special day on behalf of the Papercrafters Workshop. Got a lot of fun stuff to share with you. I'm really excited about this video, and I hope you enjoy it as well. Now, at the Papercrafters Workshop, we believe that a handmade card is just like a paper hug. So if you've been making cards today to celebrate World Card Making Day, or maybe you have a stash of cards built up in your craft room, grab some envelopes, grab some stamps, and mail them out to someone special, and just share the love of your card making passion and just a friendship around the world. A big thank you to all of our card makers in our crafty community. This day is for you. And so I hope you've been enjoying our videos throughout the day, or maybe you're watching them out of order and you're coming to me at a different point in the day. But we do have 5 videos that we had premiering here on this YouTube channel, and I hope you take them all in. So I'm going to get started. I am making a colorful swirly tree card today. And I'm going to be using primarily Hero Arts products. It's Hero's 50th birthday, and we got to work with some of their products at a recent trade show event, and I had lots of fun and got some great ideas. So I just want to take those ideas a step further and share. Well, I actually got a couple of cards to share with you today. So this is the stamp set I'm using. It is called the Swirly Christmas Tree, and it gives you kind of a Van Gogh feel, like almost a starry night kind of feel with those swirls. But there were a lot of really cool things you can do with it. I'm also using the offset holiday messages. I've cut my stamp set in half because I did share this with Chris on our team as well. She used some of the sentiments from this set, but we just split it up, and it's got some really good ideas that you can do with this. And I'm also using the Swirls Confetti die. It is a cover plate die that creates a really cool background. Now, where I started with my creating for today's video is I mean, I love Christmas. I love good reds and greens, but I also wanted to play with some non-traditional colors. So I just went to my good friend Google and typed in non-traditional Christmas colors and came up with a variety of options. And here is kind of where I started. I am also a nautical lover. I love lighthouses and boats and water and all of that kind of thing. So this color combination really jumped out at me. And this is where I created this beautiful card here. Just really focusing on the tree from this stamp set. I stamped tone on tone onto these trees and cut them out. So these are using Concord and Ninth colors. This is Poppy, Cranberry, Midnight. This was Gina K. Tranquil Seal, Tranquil Sea, and this is Sprout, back from Concord and Nines, and Evergreen. So I just really try a very traditional approach, even though I'm using slightly non-traditional colors. And just to fill in the top, almost like stars, I used some opal gems from Spellbinders. And here is this Warm Wishes sentiment here, where the trick for this is I actually stamped the outline first and then used that to line up my solid stamp so that I got a much better lineup in my Misty, and it was a lot easier to see to line things up. But you know what? This still felt, even though I was using non-traditional colors, it still felt a little bit traditional to me. Still reds and greens with just a sprinkling of accent colors. So I wanted to go a step further. And I went back to my inspiration, and this color palette really spoke to me. The sunset colors in the harbor, the purples and the teals. And so I went this way. And this was the second card that I made. Now, this is where I brought in that Swirls Confetti cover plate as well. And what you'll notice is I've moved the cards around to have a slightly different configuration. It's not straight on. like this one is. This one is very straight and expected. This one gave a very different vibe. And when I showed some members of my team, they said what it just gave a different perspective. It's almost like you were lying down in the snow, in the forest, making snow angels and looking up at the sky. So the trees have that different perspective all the way around. I love that swirl background as the background. So I didn't want to put too many gems on it like I did on that first card, and just sprinkled a few in there to call attention to our sentiment. You could move the sentiment down here. You could absolutely add, some of these ornaments, maybe the branch. You could add things, but I did like the simplicity of this. Once again, I did do the tone on tone stamping, but the yellow I found a little bit tricky. Finding that match was not super easy. So I opted to, with the yellow, not stamp it. And even with the eggplant, this is Concord and 9th eggplant, it was very dark and I didn't think that the tone on tone would show up very well. But I do think alternating the solid versus the stamp gives you a different look and allows the different elements to kind of stand out. So that's always an option for you when you are card making as well. But you know what? I'm a bold color kind of gal. So as much as I love this and that sunset really spoke to me and it really, created something beautiful, I wanted something a little bit bolder and just try yet another look. And that's the card that I'm going to create with you today. I was inspired by another friend who loves things very bougie, very bold, and truly non-traditional. So that is where I pulled this inspiration from. The pinks and the corals and those teals, I think really is where I wanted this card to end. The swirls really play into that. Now, what I did also play with, because I saw it on a couple of other elements, was mixing the gold and silver as well. So without further ado, I've got some pieces ready and we are going to start making our card. So I pulled that Confetti Swirls Coverplate die and used it to cut using that Spellbinders brushed metallic cardstock. It is one of my favorites and I like to keep a whole bunch of this in my stash. It's got a pearlescent look to it. And when you use it through your die cutting machine, sometimes all of those pieces stay in place. Sometimes they don't. So what I did is I used the Spellbinders liner sheet, which is a double-sided thin adhesive sheet on the back, just to make sure I had that little bit of extra thickness when I ran it through. That really helped to keep all those pieces in place. And then you will notice that I have a couple of pieces have dropped out. With it being adhesive, it's going to stick to the card base easily. And I can put the little pieces in just like stickers and play, make a puzzle out of it, that if a few pieces do come out, especially as we're pulling the liner sheet off as well, it's going to be really easy to put back together. So let's just go ahead and put this right on our card base, and then that way it is completely ready to go. All right, time for the magic. This peels off so easily. And I'm going to line it up with my outer corner. Line it up with the bottom because it is super sticky. So you want to make sure you get it right the first time. And just roll it down onto my card. Now, if you did happen to have one corner where something dropped out and you couldn't find a little piece, just rotate it to an area where we cover it up with the trees. I really liked the layout of this perspective one, but just changing up the color combination. So I know that this bottom corner is going to get covered up. If I was missing a few pieces, that's the orientation I would put it in, so I don't have to worry about those pieces. Next up, I picked my colors. So I chose, let me get them out here. So I chose, again, Concord and 9th colors. I've got Dragonfruit. This one is Creamsicle. I got it from a multi-pack, so I don't have the packaging on that one. I've got Watermelon, I've got Oceanside, and I've got Aqua Sky. And those really played into that inspiration. Where's my orange one? Where's my creamsicle? Let's pull that up to the, really pulled into this color combination that I want to achieve. So make sure you're using Google and just typing in things like non-traditional colors or nautical colors or those kinds of things to get ideas on color combinations that you can use. Next up, while I really liked the swirl and the tone on tone here, this one is my bougie card. This is my bling it all up card. So I went ahead and I used that swirl and I embossed it. So some of them I used silver embossing powder. And in this case, I'm using Ranger Superfine detail embossing powder with the detail of these swirls. And I'm going to actually show you, I'm going to actually emboss one with you. You really want to use a superfine embossing powder to get captured in all of those details. I did have one that didn't turn out quite so well, didn't stick as well as I would like. This, I think, was the first one that I stamped, but that's okay. We can either use it as elements or maybe I have too many. It never hurts to have too many die cuts ready for your projects. So some of them I did in silver, and then just to give a contrast, some of them I did in white. You could also do it in gold or in clear, and pick a different embossing powder for each color of tree, but I just went with those two to get me started. Next up is just figuring out, oh, I said I was going to emboss with you, so let's do that first. I'm going to clear my space, then we'll get into assembling the card. So I am going to use my Misty for this. I did find with this die, or with this stamp especially, that you want to have it nice and inky. See, I already have embossing powder on my desk, but that's okay. Before I put this in the Misty, I'm going to grab my anti-static tool. This one is from Pink and Main, and I really love the ones that are a little bit more clay-based than the white powder for embossing, especially on bolder colors, because that way you don't get any residue left behind. I sometimes find with the white ones that I get that white ghosting, and so I like these clay-based ones a little bit better. All right, clean off my space, tuck this in my Misty. I'm gonna tuck it right at the top here. And I need to position my stamp set. You can tell I've already been loving it up and using it quite a bit. When your stamps turn color, you know that those are the ones that you love. As long as you are diligent with cleaning them, you don't have to worry that they stain a little bit. It's just part of crafting. Now I can fit this on this piece of dragon fruit really easily, so I'm just going to move my magnet so it holds it nicely. Pull it up. This is all dusted, and I'm using Wow embossing powder, or sorry, Wow embossing ink. It is a slow drying ink. I found that I was able to stamp all of the trees I did and then go back and emboss them. I didn't have to stamp, emboss. So it gives you a little bit of time to play. Like I said, I had that one that didn't turn out very well. It was my first one, so maybe I didn't use enough ink, or there just wasn't enough ink on the stamp yet. But I love, love, love this embossing powder, or the embossing ink. Okay, move it over and grab my pressure tool just to give it nice even pressure across the board. And what I like about this embossing ink too is you can actually see where you're stamping. And if you really wanted to, if you wanted that tone on tone look but didn't have the right color of ink, and maybe this would have worked a little bit better on that yellow one that I shared with you, the embossing ink also works as a watermark ink. I would just heat set it to make sure that it stays dry. But anyways, I'm going to do a second coat on this just to make sure everything sticks. All right, and now I can take this out. I will clean this later. Just a little bit of water on my stamp chamois will clean that up nicely. Now, one thing I did forget to grab when I was prepping for this video is my I usually have a piece of copy paper that I just fold in half to use as a funnel with my powder. So I'll just use the back of my inspiration sheet. It's all good. Put the lid back on my ink. And here's where I'm going to grab the Ranger embossing powder and dump it all out. Sprinkly, sprinkly, cover it all up. Slide it around a little bit so you make sure you get it in all spots. There we go. And then you can tap, tap, tap. I am going to be die cutting this. So if I happen to get stuff over in the other areas, it's not too bad because we'll be cutting it out. But look how nice and smooth, and every little grain has stuck to the stamped area. Makes me happy. All right. Pour this back in. And put the lid on because I am known to knock and dump things and create a mess. All right, I don't know if that lid's going on straight or not, so I'm going to put it behind so I don't accidentally dump it. All right, now as for heating it up, I'm going to use my embossing gun. I apologize, it's going to be noisy for a second here, but in just seconds, move your heat down a little bit. There we go. There's the magic. Keep your gun moving so you don't burn your paper. It's so pretty. And look how nice and shiny that is. Really, almost those swirls almost make it look furry, like a really, really lush pine tree, evergreen tree in the forest. Now, I've already got my other trees all prepped, but if I didn't, that's when I would take the coordinating die from the stamp set and just line it up. This lines up super easy. I usually use the trunk as kind of my anchor, get that in place, and then wiggle this around to make sure that everything's lined up, tape it down, run it through your die cutting machine, and you are ready to go. So with these trees, you know, get a whole bunch of paper, do all your embossing first, then you can do your die cutting, and then you are ready to play. So here's my card base. Here are all my trees. I'm going to sort them into silver embossing and white embossing because ideally I'd like to alternate them when I am laying them out. So I've got the watermelon and the aqua sky. With the white, I've got the creamsicle, the dragonfruit, and the Oceanside, sorry, over here with the silver. And in order to get that circular perspective, that upside down perspective, you want to have everything angling kind of into the center. So if you have a quarter or a circle die or something, I'm actually just going to use a little foam pad here. This is going to give you your focal point and remind you to keep angling into that area. Because this is kind of where I think my sentiment's going to go, that's where I'm angling all my trees pointing towards. Now, I really like the configuration that I've got here. So if you find something that you like, don't hesitate to repeat it. And I find it easiest to start with a corner piece, just like when you're making a puzzle. And we're just going to lay them out because then this way we can move things around. This is the better one. Yeah, this is the one that didn't turn out so well. So I'm going to use this one here, kind of tuck it in here. And again, pointing towards our focal point. Let me just come up on camera a little bit. Then I'm going to do a pink one down here. And I need a darker one, but I don't have any of these colors. So let's go with it's actually lighter, but that's okay. So that bottom's still coming together. And it is sometimes a little bit tricky with everything hanging off. So don't be afraid to use a Post-it note or another piece of paper to kind of benchmark where you think that bottom is, just to see if you like it. so far, I'm really happy with how this is coming together. Now, one color we have not used is the watermelon. So let me tuck that in there like so. Let's do another dragon fruit because I really love that bright, bright pink. Okay. And let's do an aqua sky. Again, still aiming towards my accent here. And let's end up with another watermelon. Kind of bring that around, kind of like that. And there may be parts that are not going to get seen. You know what, I'm going to leave this one off for right now. Let's get these ones into place and then we can always tuck more underneath. That's what happened with this purple one. I didn't have it there originally and then was able to tuck it afterwards. So here's the trick for gluing it down, because if you're like me, this is where you just wish you had a print or a stick button that this is all going to magically stick down for you. Unfortunately, that doesn't always, well, doesn't ever happen, at least in my world. But this is where we're just going to take our tape runner and do a little bit of glue at a time without really sticking down. We can go back in and tuck glue underneath afterwards. That's where liquid glue is my best friend. So I'm going to start over here, pick one up, just use a little bit of tape on the tip because I know that a lot of this is not going to get stuck down. It's going to get cut off. So now that's stuck. Gently take this one off, and if you even have to, hold it in place, lift it up, and put the tape underneath. You don't even have to put it on the paper. There we go. And now I can do it on this one here. So I'm just using a very little bit of tape. The other thing you can do, I can't do it because I'm using my phone, but you could take a picture and have it kind of set off to the side to help you at least get approximate locations. Again, using a little bit of tape also allows you that if you want something to tuck, you can. And I'm just going one piece at a time. All right, this one's going to be tricky, so let me gently pull that out and tuck it back under. You want your tips of your trees to vary. You don't want it all lining up. Now, this card originally came about because I wanted to see if I could use these trees to make a wreath. And unfortunately, I wasn't as successful as I had hoped to be. It really didn't come together, but sometimes your ideas don't have to work. It led to this whole circular perspective that even though I'm not achieving what my initial plan was, I think I want that one pulled back a little bit. It was worth a try. It was lots of fun to try with that. Okay, so I do feel like maybe other things will get tucked in as we go along, but I want to see what this looks like with all the extra bits cut off. So I'm removing my little anchor. I'm going to flip this over. You could just use scissors and cut those apart, or I'm going to carefully use my paper trimmer and see what I can do. Let's make some space. Okay, I'm going to use the bottom guide here because this is where the bottom of my card is, and that'll help me keep it nice and straight. Get that tucked. Come on, there we go, tucked underneath, right against the bottom. And I'm going to come over, and what I'm doing is I'm putting my finger right at the edge of the blade, but not pushing in because that's going to come over the blade and you could cut yourself. But just gently here so that I can butt my card up where I know the edge of that blade is going to come down. Be very careful. You don't want to push too hard. You want to be gentle, and you don't want to slice your card either. So worst case, err on the side of being to the left of the blade, and then I'm going to come down. Okay, I'm going to rotate, try to keep everything underneath. And I'm going to try and do the same thing. Now, I don't have an edge to lean up against, but I can eyeball. Or if you need to, use a ruler along the edge. Come on. And there's a lot of layers. It's a little bit tricky. Yeah, see, I've got a little bit of fuzzies going on here because there was too many pieces, but I can clean those up with my scissors. I think that's what I will do right now. Let's just clean the edge up. When you see something, you might as well fix it right away. Oh, my tape let go a little bit, so I need to flip this back over. Get these guys back lined up against the bottom. And an extra little push to keep it stuck down. All right, little bits there to clean up. Little haircut. All right, so that's the bottom edge. And let's flip it over and do this last edge. Keep everything firm, hold it firmly. There we go. And I got one little notch up here to finish up. Boop. All right. Look at that, it's coming together. Now in hindsight, I might have wanted some of these a little bit further along, but I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy with that perspective. Now, do we need any more? We've got 3 more trees that we can play with. Get these out of the way. So I could tuck another teal one under here or even over top. Have that blue one peeking out behind. Do I want another one over here? I think I'm gonna leave that one out. Yeah, I think I'll do that. And that way I've got an, oh, no, let's get rid. I'm just gonna add that teal one. And then that way it kind of gives that circular look without having it to be fully completed. All right, so that last one's gonna go on top here. Like so, and because it's just the one, I'm just gonna use my scissors. This angle's a little tricky. Okay. Ooh, isn't that pretty? Isn't that pretty? My bougie sparkly card. So now I'm just going to take my liquid glue and go around and add just little bits of glue. The liquid, you do have to hold it a little bit to make sure it sets. But I really want to make sure that when I send this card, the pieces don't come off. That whole thing is wiggling. So let's come back over here. Down, get the orange one, the creamsicle one. It's funny, creamsicle, watermelon, dragonfruit makes it sound like it's a summer card, Oceanside, but there's nothing wrong with a tropical, summerlicious holiday card. So just little bits to hold it all down. Give it a good check. Make sure your corners are in good spot. And when you're using a good quality liquid glue, you know that even if you get glue where you don't want it, it's not going to show. All right, so to finish up, all we need is a sentiment. And I really wanted there to be some pop, so I pulled the dragon fruit as the base, and I actually took that offset stamp and embossed it on that gold. So this brush gold paper does emboss beautifully as well. I did both the solid and the outline because I just wasn't sure which one I was going to like. I ended up really liking the the outline one, so I'll save this solid one for a little bit later. And now I could just grab some foam strips. Actually, just going to put one strip at the top, trim it off. Since I've got the extra bit, might as well give it some extra dimension there. Well, extra foundation, I guess is the better word, not dimension, because they're side by side. And then where do we want to place this? On my other one, I had it a little bit higher, but my trees were also a little bit higher. So I think I'm going to come down on this one, just like so. Look how bougie that is. Sparkly, bright colors. And I'm going to finish off. I have some berry adhesive gems from Spellbinders. So really leaning into that pink. And let's just do some clusters around, maybe even just one cluster right here, because there's lots going on down here. I'm going to grab a large one. And to use these, I take my tweezers and I just slide them sideways. Don't try to pick it up or you might lose the adhesive. I just slid it sideways. So there's my big one. There's another one, just a little bit smaller. When you're placing gems, it's ideal to aim for groupings of 3. And personally, I like doing like a large, medium, and small, just to give you that variety. So that is where I am ending this card, and just had a lot of fun using this Swirly Trees stamp set. Let me bring that out. And playing with different color combinations. So I encourage you to go to Google, our friend Google, or Pinterest. Pinterest is another one where you can get some great color combination ideas. Play with some of the different colors, even play with your scraps and try things out. If you don't want to go to this big scale, try something smaller just to see if the color combinations work well for you, and have some fun playing with trees. That is it for me. I wish you all a wonderful World Card Making Day. Just a last little thing. All of these supplies that I used here today, you can get at our store, the Papercrafters Workshop. We are located in Stouffville, Ontario, Canada, which is just north of Toronto, but we do ship. We have a wonderful website at papercraftersworkshop.ca. And for this weekend only, we are offering you 15% off your purchase. There are some exclusions, but 15% off most of what you can buy in our store. Again, our website is papercraftersworkshop.ca, and the code you're going to use at checkout is PaperHug24. So sending you all virtual hugs, and hopefully you are sending paper hugs to your friends and loved ones, just as a special hello, or excuse me, for the holiday season. Thank you and happy World Card Making Day.